My 48 male, older daughter, 24, gave birth to her fourth child 6 months ago. They were using birth control, but it failed. She used to work as a dishwasher, but due to health issues stemming from her second child, chronic back pain, and then her third child, the after effects of a broken tailbone and more chronic pain that made standing and moving around hard, she can no longer work. She tried her best to get an office temp job, but after about a week, the woman supervising her said, "This isn't working out." She was a very uptight woman who claimed that just because it always took her 3 days max to train everybody else in the data entry work, she couldn't just be a good person and accommodate slower learners. That woman likely caused her to get a bad reputation at the temp agency, and she didn't get hired anywhere else. My daughter's boyfriend, 28, works at Walmart. He had many more hours when she was pregnant, but since then, his hours have ebbed and flowed. He said he would take a day in the future to look for jobs, but it's the holidays and he's busy with family. I feel a lot of empathy for my daughter and her boyfriend, and I wish I could help them out more, but I'm a single mom working for a nursing home where I struggle to get full-time hours, and my ex ran up a lot of debt in both our names and is now living in another country. My younger daughter, nearly an adult, has a college fund. The amount in it would be enough to pay a large amount of a 2-year community college tuition, given the scholarships and grants she'd likely get. She's applied to 4-year universities with the understanding that she'd be taking out loans and working, so she's deciding between 4 years and community college. The other shoe dropped after my oldest daughter's landlord found out that they were having their boyfriend's brother and girlfriend living in their 1-bedroom in exchange for them helping with the rent, and they got evicted. My daughter agrees it was wrong to lie to the landlord, and both parents were depressed because her boyfriend got a job offer 1 state away, and they'd have to move from their support network. They came to me asking for help so they could have more time to find financial stability here. I was torn, but seeing my grandkids, I knew my duty was to care for the most vulnerable in the family. So I'll be making calls to liquidate my daughter's college fund, saying yes to understanding the penalties and telling my daughter this. She got very cold and said, "You always brag about having a good memory. I hope you remember this moment then." She hasn't spoken to me since and spent Thanksgiving inquiring with family and friends to see if hospitals are keen to hire college students for the kitchen or reception or anything. She made some cryptic posts about how she hopes she'll be grateful one day that she won't have the privilege of studying anything outside of something technical because she needs something where she'll always be able to find a job. Am I the idiot for sacrificing my daughter's college fund because her sister just gave birth to her 4th child? This is your youngest telling you that if you or your fecund firstborn need any help in the future, expect to look elsewhere. People who have 4 children don't have the luxury of dipping out of employment when they feel like it, especially during the holiday season. You're penalizing the highly functioning minor daughter for other adults' selfish and foolish choices. You are the idiot. Personally, when I heard tailbone broke and can't hold a job down for longer than 2 days, I assumed sugar issues. Nowadays, it's probably unfair, but I've seen it way too many times. A temp agency isn't going to blackball someone without an excellent reason, especially now. I hire temps. They're made of solid gold right now. One thing that will blackball you is drugs or alcohol, or extreme insubordination, either of which is a luxury this woman cannot afford. And OP says that they were using birth control? Clearly not well enough, since the daughter's 24 with 4 kids she can't afford. And the boyfriend will start looking for another job later, at some point because he's busy with family for the holidays, yet his hours are reduced. What a bogus excuse not to look for a better job or more hours somewhere else. Seasonal jobs are so easy to find, and now's the time they need help. They're willfully unemployed or underemployed. Seriously, wow, lady, you've got this completely backward. You're rewarding the daughter making poor life choices at the expense of the daughter who's trying. Caring for the vulnerable is fine, but you can't care only for the vulnerable. By doing so, you're unwittingly incentivizing your children to keep failing. And they're vulnerable by circumstance and vulnerable by life choices. All the elder daughter's problems are self-inflicted. I guarantee that baby number 5 will be on the way soon. My 29 male girlfriend, Sandra, 29, and I have been dating for a while now. She invited me to have dinner with her parents, and I said yes. Before I could arrive, though, she asked me whether I'd like any vegetarian options. I told her that I'd prefer non-vegetarian stuff. She agreed to inform her parents about it. She later texted me to confirm that there would also be non-vegetarian options. This was a week before the date of the dinner. I arrived at the house and she told me the food would be vegan. She said a friend of her father's along with his son would be arriving that day from somewhere else. It was a surprise visit. They asked whether they could come, and my girlfriend's family said yes. As they're vegan, they decided to change the cuisine. I was very much annoyed at that, but I kept my silence. The discussion was mostly turned towards them, and they also barely seemed to recognize I was there while they all had fun. At the end of the dinner, though, her father actually said, "We have to discuss something in private together, so perhaps you can leave our house now." I got fed up and told them, "Oh, sure. You asked me what I'd like to have, bushed that out at the last moment, and then hardly pay any attention to me before essentially asking me to screw off at the end. I'm disappointed in all of you. You guys are terrible hosts." That resulted in a massive argument, while Sarah accused me of not being accommodating, that I'm a child, and that I should have been grateful I was even invited, etc. But I wonder whether I did anything wrong. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. You acted like a sulky toddler because you had to endure one vegan meal, and in the end, you threw an epic tantrum. If you felt offended or disappointed at their hosting, you still should have kept your mouth shut and your feelings to yourself, and maybe talked to Sandra about it later. Your behavior towards them was actually worse than their transgressions. I don't know if you cared if they liked you or gave a good impression, but you certainly did not. Maybe you can recover a bit if you apologize, but most likely, you've just cemented yourself in their minds as hugely entitled, unappreciative, condescending, rude, and moron. I go with everyone's the idiot here. What a weird dinner party. Eating vegan food for one night is not the end of the world. I usually find 1 or 2 soy-free allergies dishes to eat. I certainly wouldn't pout about it. Your girlfriend's father was rude when he asked you to leave. However, I wouldn't have thrown a tantrum. I'd leave and decline any further invitations if it was an unpleasant evening. I disagree. The girlfriend specifically asked him what he'd like. Then they completely changed the menu the day of with no warning. The entire evening, OP was ignored by everyone, despite him being a guest as well. The father basically said, "Yeah, get out now. We need to discuss things privately." No, I agree 100% that they are terrible hosts. If OP had been told all these things in advance, he likely wouldn't have minded, but they didn't. No, OP, you're not the idiot. However, you very likely just bombed your relationship with your girlfriend. Background: my girlfriend, 25, and I, 26 male, have been together for over 2 years, and we've lived together for 10 months. Last weekend, my parents stayed at ours overnight on Saturday due to a wedding they were attending nearby. The wedding was to be late in the day. The ceremony was to happen at sunset, and there was a reception afterward. I live only a few kilometers from the venue where the wedding was taking place. My parents asked if they could stay over on Saturday night, as they live approximately a 45-minute drive from me. Rather than drive home late after the wedding, they asked me a week beforehand if they could stay at mine and leave on Sunday morning. I didn't see an issue with having them for one night. This is where the problem happened. During the visit, my mom commented a few times on the state of things and how it looked like we hadn't cleaned. I didn't think it was bad until my mom started pointing things out to my girlfriend, but I did agree with my mom. It wasn't a fit state for guests. Now, this is where the problem happened. I work in marketing, so my job is 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on weekdays. My girlfriend works in the fire brigade, so she works rotating shifts and not just business hours on weekdays like myself. She worked until the Thursday night before my parents came to stay. She was off work on Friday, but even though she knew my parents were coming to stay, she didn't tidy up or prepare. I was embarrassed once Mom started bringing it up, and now my girlfriend is angry with me for not defending her to my mom and has gone to stay with Iran and is not talking to me. She says that I didn't notice anything wrong until my mom kept pointing it out to her. Then I should have defended her to my mom and also not let her take all the blame. I've pointed out to her that she was off on Friday before they arrived. However, she said, 1, I work from home, whereas she doesn't. And 2, they're my parents, and I didn't ask her first if they could stay. She was unexpectedly called back to work on Sunday because one of her colleagues was sick and was in isolation, and my girlfriend was needed in his place. She's been angry since she left on Sunday and was even short with my mom, even though my mom was just trying to help. Who's right here, me or my girlfriend? You are the idiot, dude. Better yet, you knew your parents were coming, and you could have prepared your apartment as well. Why would your girlfriend be expected to prepare for your parents? Hopefully, your girlfriend has seen your true colors and will act accordingly. Exactly. OP is the idiot, not just because he allowed his mom to bully his girlfriend, but because he didn't even realize his mom was being a misogynistic idiot. In fact, he sounds like a misogynistic idiot himself. Imagine working from home and not taking the time to clean before your parents come. On top of knowing your partner's working a demanding job with long hours, yeah, she had a day off, but tell a nurse they should tidy up the house more after they get off a 12-hour shift and see how that works out. But he works in marketing until 5 p.m. How would he be able to manage a responsibility such as cleaning up his crap? Wow, man, baby. If I was OP's partner and had spent the week doing her job, I would not be cleaning for his parents' arrival either on my day off, especially when it's likely he's been the one making the mess all week. Of course she's angry. You complete douche canoe. You let her take all the blame for having a messy house. If you invited people to stay, you should have cleaned beforehand, and when that didn't happen, you should have shouldered all the blame. Duh. Is your girlfriend or your maid? You're a grown adult. Clean your house. It's not her sole responsibility. My 32-year-old husband, Keith, got hit by an intoxicated driver about 10 months ago, and he's now paralyzed from the hips down. We have 2 daughters, a toddler and a kindergartner. It's been really hard on him, and he struggles with depression. Luckily, he works at a desk job, so he doesn't have to worry about his employment, but it's really affected him in other ways. He can't play with our girls the way he used to. They still love him to bits, but he feels guilty. He also can't enjoy many of his old hobbies. We got him a good therapist, and he's improving every day with my and all our friends' support. He's had bad issues with his family in the past, so we don't communicate with them. He's gotten along with my family very well up until now. I have an older brother, Adam, 35, who's also paralyzed in a wheelchair. He was driving while intoxicated when he was 21 and crashed. He dropped out of college and now lives a very isolated life with our parents. He spends most of his time playing video games. He does a bit of online work every now and again, but is primarily unemployed. Sometimes I wish our parents would encourage him to go out more and make some new friends, but I know I'll never fully understand what he's going through, so I don't comment. I didn't want to make him feel worse. In the past few months, my husband and I have visited my parents a few times weekly for dinner. He's feeling better now, and they only live a couple of blocks down the road. Plus, they love to see the girls. My brother joins us only occasionally. Over the past few dinners he's been present at, he keeps making weird and rude comments. It started about a month and a half ago when Keith commented on how he was thinking of returning to our local gym to work out his arms. Adam said something about how maybe I should just buy some at-home weights for him because people would mock him in the public gym. It got awkward, and my mom quickly changed the subject. At the next dinner, Keith talked about how his friends organized a little fishing trip with him at a nearby lake in a few months. Adam chuckled and said he hoped he had fun at his pity party. I was going to tell him how rude that was, but my dad shushed me and quickly asked our daughter something. Adam's comments have been increasing over the past few weeks and have become unbearable. We've even been going to their house less and less. I've snapped at him a few times only to get a pathetic halfway apology. My parents keep saying Keith's accident has brought up a lot of old feelings for Adam, and he doesn't truly mean what he says. They kept saying they'd pull him aside one night and tell him to stop. It all came to a head a couple of days ago. We hadn't been going over there quite as often, but my older daughter had a ballet recital, and we went to my parents' house afterward for dinner. Keith was telling her how proud he was, but Adam cut in. He said that it was a shame that handicapped seats in the auditorium were in the very front because she must have been embarrassed. Keith sternly asked him what he meant, and he went on to talk about how he was happy he got paralyzed young because he didn't have to worry about embarrassing his kids by being a useless vegetable of a parent. I got furious and started to scream at Adam about what a bastard he was. Keith has been doing his best to be the most incredible father he can be, do well at his job, stay social and happy with his friends, and is succeeding, which is more than I can say for Adam. Keith's accident was not caused by his own mistake, but he's found the strength to continue his life. I know Adam has been through a lot, but his stupidity made him what he is now. He can say whatever he wants, but everyone knows that he's the useless vegetable here, not Keith. It got dead silent. Our youngest daughter began to cry. I grabbed the girls and everything as quickly as I could and went home. I turned my phone off because I started to get bombarded with texts. The few that I have read are my parents tearing me up for saying such cruel things. They agreed Adam was out of line, but I had no right to say all those things. Apparently, he won't eat or come out of his room now. They banged on my front door a couple of times, but I haven't answered. Keith hasn't wanted to talk about it all that much, and I've heard him cry a couple times. Our daughters are confused. I don't even know what to feel. I wish I had just told my brother to shut up and leave instead of saying all those things. I love Adam, but I still get mad thinking of the awful things he said about my husband. A few of my closest friends have said that even though Adam was awful, he's had a tough life since his accident. I should have just bit my tongue and had my parents deal with him. They suggested I apologize, but then tell him how inappropriate and cruel he was. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Just because you're disabled doesn't mean you have a get-out-of-jail card for being an idiot. Your brother is a proper, jealous, miserable idiot and had it coming. Your parents also had plenty of chances to set him straight, but didn't because they couldn't help but coddle him. I hope your husband feels better soon. It's good to hear that you stood up for your husband. Keep doing that. And Adam needed a wake-up call. Mommy will spoon-feed him and tell him it's all his mean sister's fault. Adam isn't having a hard time because it brings up old feelings. Adam is having a hard time because your husband being happy and productive forces him to face the fact that his problems result from his attitude and not his circumstances. That's the more significant issue that needs to be addressed by the family unit and a therapist. No one is doing him any favors by accepting or enabling his bad behavior. I'm sorry your husband and kids got stuck in the middle of this. On a side note, I'm a dedicated gym goer 5 days a week, and your husband will not have anyone making fun of him at the gym. He'll get lots of high fives and tons of people telling him he's inspirational to them. My brother Bill, 30 male, has been trying online dating for 3 years, but with no success. We live in a more rural area, so there aren't that many single women around his age to begin with. The ones who are available, well, Bill didn't think they were good enough. He asked me to edit his Hinge profile so he could attract a mate. I looked it over and, wow, his profile had paragraphs of what he wants in a woman: skinny, cute, under 30, average to high income, and needs to live locally. She must be into anime and gaming. The only pictures he's got are grainy selfies or pictures with one or both parents, mostly our mom. Bill lives with our parents and has been working as a door greeter at Walmart since he was 18. I told Bill that he doesn't need to overhaul his page. He needs to overhaul his life. No woman meeting his once would want to date an obese 30-year-old living off of his parents and working at a Walmart job normally given to older adults to stay busy. Bill freaked out on me and told our mom. She's upset because I tried to tear him down when he needed my help. She wants me to apologize. But what's there to apologize for? I just told Bill what was wrong and that he should consider changing his life if he really wants what he wants. Am I the idiot? I was supposed to be helping my brother and instead tore him down. Hello, yes. I would like to order one hot sugar mama, younger than me, and lives in my rural area. She must like anime and overweight man boys and not judge me for my job or living status. She should be able to do everything. Cook for me, clean up after me, and not have male friends or colleagues. I will offer nothing in return. I hope this is an acceptable compromise. What a catch indeed. And he doesn't need to overhaul his page. He needs to overhaul his life, is what more people need someone to say to them. I can't believe he has photos of his parents on his dating profile. That'd be a nope for me. Dear God, he sounds like an incel in the making. I mean, you were harsh as heck. None of it is untrue, though. He seems to be asking for a lot, with not very much to give in return. Personally, I would probably have chosen not to respond, rather than to say all of that, even though it's true. Can't judge you. The idiot, though, he asked for your help, and you gave him the truth. In the making, dude's fully cooked at 30 years old. If he were a steak, he'd be well done. You are not the idiot. What on earth were you supposed to do? Your mother has a very positive view of him, so she'd be the best person to help him with his profile. The fact that he ran straight to mommy and that mommy now wants you to apologize is exactly how and why Bill is in this position. He needs therapy and a life coach, but my guess is he can't be bothered. Imagine being 30 and not just being able to tell your sibling that you didn't like what they were saying. Instead, you need mommy to do a power play because sister hurt my fifis. He's deluded, and it needed saying. Just reading this, his attitude toward women made my skin crawl. His list is not okay coming from anyone. Ask him if he was athletic, with a good job, and if he would date an obese woman making minimum wage and living with her parents. LOL. In fact, he wouldn't date the female version of himself now. He'd be lucky to get any female version at this point. His mother is the perfect person to overhaul his profile. They're both as delusional as the other. I have in-laws who are exactly the same, and they don't want actual help. They just want you to tell them that they're right. Let them tell each other that everyone else has the problem. OP surely has better things to do with their time, like watching the bees pollinate flowers in a park, far, far away from the family. My wife and I are currently living with our father temporarily. He is a very meticulous person, which I respect. He likes to devote every Saturday to cleaning. I picked up my oldest child from my ex Friday night. He's a young tween. My father-in-law wanted him to participate in cleaning the whole house today. I said he didn't need to because he hadn't participated in creating any mess. My father-in-law insisted everyone in the house needed to participate. Still, I said no, that he needed to unpack and settle in. My father-in-law was very insistent. He said that under his roof, he would insist upon his way of doing things. My wife said we must respect her father and abide by his rules in his house. I said no. I said he could kick me out if he wanted, but I make the decisions for my son, and the answer's no. My father-in-law has been furious all day and demanded an apology. I apologized, but I still didn't make my son participate in the cleaning. My wife is upset with me for upsetting her father. I feel that I make the decisions for my children, regardless of whose house I'm in. Does that belief make me an idiot? There's an obvious answer to this dilemma. Your father-in-law provides a nice home, so your tween son is in a safe and clean environment. A tween is capable of understanding reciprocity. Why do you think he should only have to clean when he makes a mess? Isn't it more appropriate to explain that helping to clean is a gesture of appreciation for the kindness father-in-law has shown, letting you and your son live and stay there? You are the idiot, not just for disrespecting your father-in-law in his own house. You've also let your son down by not giving him the opportunity to learn that it's best to pay kindness with kindness. I also want to pile on this. I live near a university, so there are a lot of dorms and apartments. Having roommates is the norm. I cannot count how many students rant about their filthy roommates, boy or girl, who have no idea about how to clean their spaces and dorms, and how disrespectful they are to the other household members. Filthy roommates just expect others to clean up after them. So, in addition, OP also failed to give his son this opportunity to learn how to clean the house he currently resides in and teach respect to other people's living spaces. His son has not created any of the mess, so not the same situation at all. There's a major difference between teaching a child to clean up after themselves versus expecting them to clean up after you. OP can give his son the opportunity next Saturday after he's contributed to the mess. I'm with you. OP's not the idiot. I was a child forced to do dishes and clean for hours on Friday nights when I hadn't been at that parent's house for 2 weeks. I'll say that it's created some issues for me, especially regarding doing dishes. If it's a week that the son has been there, sure, he can participate in the Saturday cleaning, but helping to clean a house he has nothing to do with? I don't know, man. I'm a single mom to Juliana, teen. I work nights and get home at 8 a.m. When I get home, I'm not driving my kid around to see her friends. I'm sleeping. When she was younger, we had an au pair for this kind of thing. Over the past year, we've had an agreement that she can go wherever she wants after I get home, as long as she can get there on foot or on her bike, and she stays in our town. This agreement works because she's been able to prove that I can trust her over the years. I also have a tracker on her phone that alerts me when she leaves town. My sister asked me to babysit her kids, a teen female and a tween male, last weekend while they went to a wedding. I warned them that I'd be working on those days and would not be taking their kids anywhere until at least 4 p.m., and that I wouldn't let them go into town. They seemed fine with that until Saturday morning. I came home from work, made me and the kids breakfast, and Juliana left the house. My niece asked why Juliana gets to go out and they don't. I said it's because she's been able to prove that I can trust her, and I have the tracker on her phone. They're not with me long enough for me to be able to trust them to wander around town, and since I don't own their phones, I can't put trackers on them. The kids woke me up multiple times that day to take them places because they were bored. Then their parents started calling me because I can't let my daughter go out and not my nieces and nephews, and I should have called in sick if I couldn't let my niece or nephew do anything fun because of my work. Sunday was the same. I didn't take them out that day either because if they didn't respect me, I would not take them out, which their parents also got mad about. My sister and parents are upset that I locked the kids in the house all weekend, but let Juliana do whatever she wanted. They're saying, to be fair, I should have let all the kids go out, or none, and are calling me a bad aunt. Am I the idiot for letting my daughter go out and not them? Not the idiot. Their parents should have arranged activities for the kids and transportation if they were worried about it. You were clear, and they accepted it. You've already inconvenienced yourself by babysitting for the weekend. Now they expect even more? Nah. Something I'm also baffled about. At their ages, are you telling me that these kids couldn't work out how to entertain themselves for a few days? Don't most kids grow out of the "I'm bored and it's your job to fix it" phase by the time they're like 9 or 10? They're old enough to read a book, watch a movie on an iPad, or play board games. My mom had similar rules to me as a teenager. I could go where I wanted, when I wanted, as long as I told her about it and kept on top of my other responsibilities like school. My older brother would complain, saying it wasn't fair since she didn't do that with him, but his grades sucked, and he snuck out all the time to drink with his friends. The most rebellious thing I did as a teen was driving my friend to McDonald's for chicken nuggets at 3 a.m. because she was too high to drive. In other words, I was trustworthy, and he wasn't. OP, you did your sister a favor. They knew the rules. She would have complained more if something happened to her kids if you let them rove around free range. No good deed goes unpunished. My sister, 29, got married last Saturday. The ceremony was beautiful, and I enjoyed myself as much as someone who's famously not a wedding guy could. Unfortunately, the dramatics were not quite as enjoyable. I, 27 male, hadn't seen my family in a few months, and we've only had a handful of phone calls over those months. It's never purposefully that I pull one of these disappearing acts. It's primarily out of habit. I've been fiercely independent for most of my life. I get easily caught up in whatever I'm doing at the time, making it hard to remember to keep those not in my direct line of sight in the loop. My mother's the same way. It's also nice visiting around times when big events like this are going on, as my mom is prone to hovering whenever I'm home, and this takes some of the spotlight off of me. I had been in Ireland for around 8 months prior to flying in last Thursday. I was originally there to spend 2 weeks with my best friend, who, thanks to my one-track mindset, I had unfortunately grown apart from within recent years. Ours was a friendship that started when we were 14 and was one of the most important relationships in my life for over a decade. I wanted to put more effort into it so I didn't lose it. He was spending time overseas to reconnect with his heritage since his father's passing. I was already traveling, and my stay obviously turned out to be much longer than 2 weeks. It also turned into us getting married. Funny how life works out. About 2 weeks before our trip to the States for my sister's wedding, I sent out a mass email to close family, letting them know that my husband and I were married. I wanted to assuage any possibility of us stealing any thunder right from the get-go. My mom replied that she was hurt, that she wasn't told sooner or allowed to be there, which I understood. However, it seemed her mood flipped by the time we met in person. The rehearsal dinner was on Friday when we all met up for the first time. My mom was overjoyed to see my partner and me. She spent a large part of the night telling stories that she had always predicted something was different about my friendship with him compared to others I was close with in high school. It was a lovely moment, but at the end of the night, my sister pulled me aside and asked if we would not wear our wedding rings to her ceremony. I was confused, so I asked why. She said I was taking the attention off her, and she was already bitter that I hijacked her rehearsal dinner. More families might take notice if I wore my ring tomorrow and caused a similar incident. I refused. As I mentioned before, the ceremony was beautiful. Still, she didn't speak to me for the rest of the weekend, and we ended up leaving the reception early. Am I the idiot? For a little clarification, my husband and I had been friends since we were 14. It wasn't that we hadn't seen each other for that long. We hadn't seen each other for about 3 months when I came to Ireland to visit him. I've been married for 4 months. I emailed a select group of family members 2 weeks before the wedding. You are the idiot. Normally, asking someone not to wear their wedding ring would be a crazy request, but I actually get where your sister's coming from. You seem remarkably self-centered and thoughtless of the impact of your actions and behavior on others. How can you not think that running off to Ireland, getting married to someone you haven't seen for 14 years, and then telling everyone 2 weeks beforehand, despite being married for 4 months, wouldn't steal her thunder? You had to know that handling things this way would detract from your sister's big day. Also, Jesus, how do you not think of notifying your mother, who you're supposedly close with, that you're getting married? Multiple phone calls over a few months, and you didn't bring it up? Feels like there's something not being said here. The issue isn't with wearing the wedding ring. It's that OP waited until his sister's wedding was 2 weeks away to tell them. Yeah, 2 weeks sounds like even after the RSVP cutoff date, which is usually 3 to 4 weeks. So maybe not so innocent. Like, why didn't you say something when you sent in the RSVP? By the way, you have to give a 3-month notice of intention to marry at a civil office in Ireland before you can even get that civil marriage ceremony done. So I wonder how whirlwind this whole elopement even was. LOL, thought I was the only one who was thinking that. I was born and bred Irish, but lived abroad for the last few years. I married another Irish citizen, born abroad in an EU country, and the paperwork was already a nightmare. Never mind 2 Yanks. That's so wild. It really seems like you stole her thunder on purpose. At best, you're completely self-absorbed, to the point where you can't even see that your choices affect other people too. I have an autistic son, tween, who doesn't like fizzy drinks. He's also not a massive fan of milk or juice, so he drinks water. I went out to eat with my grandfather, kiddo's great-grandfather. We ordered, and my boy got some burgers and fries. Typical kid stuff. The order came with a kid's soda, and my son decided to get water. For some reason, my grandfather took this as an insult and seemed like he was poor, or it went to it's included in the meal, so he had to get it. So we ordered a Coke. My son had no intention of drinking it, and he just got it to shut my grandpa up. He got a refill on his water, and my grandpa lost it, started yelling at my son about wasting money and destroying Father's Day because he won't drink a Coke. I don't know how this is viewed as disrespectful, even though the family knows he's autistic and has some food and drink aversions. I grabbed my kids and left the restaurant after my father wouldn't let up about the Coke. I get a text from my mom, it's her dad, later, because my son and I ruined Father's Day for my grandpa, and he's so rarely in town. I don't even understand this, because my mom is normally so good with my kids, and she's taking my grandfather's side in this argument. Not the idiot. Grandpa ruined Father's Day by making something out of nothing. No one assumes a family's poor because one kid drinks water. It's normal, and a grown adult shouldn't be freaking out. Your kid is totally within their rights to not drink the cola, and you're within your rights for not forcing him to drink it either. To be more precise, Grandpa made a wine out of water. It would be one thing if your kid insisted on having an expensive drink and then poured it down the drain, although publicly yelling would still not be an acceptable way to handle it. Still, your grandfather's the one who insisted it was a free drink. All your son did was literally get a refill of a different complimentary beverage. Good Lord, people flip out on kids for drinking too much soda. Then we get a situation like this, where a kid doesn't want soda and still gets flipped out on. It baffles me and makes me wonder if your mom knows the whole story. Also, are you sure that your grandfather's doing okay? Angry outbursts could be a sign of something more seriously wrong, like the early stages of dementia. Good for you for sticking up for your son and showing him that you have his back.